Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA 2K25 expansion series with the Mexico City Aztecs. Year 3 is finally over as the Mavericks win their third straight title over the Detroit Pistons. The past couple years, ever since they lost against the Boston Celtics, the Mavericks have gone on to win 3 straight titles, after even losing Luka in the last offseason to the LA Clippers. He won MVP for the third straight time, but the Mavericks keep on winning. Meanwhile, the Aztecs finished with 30 wins and the second worst record in the league, leaving us with the second best odds to get the first overall pick. So that's where we're at as of right now. We're not sure where we're going to land with this pick. We have another pick later on in the lottery with the 14th highest odds, originally owned by Atlanta. But we have 2 more lottery picks, hoping for some luck here, because I would really like to draft 2 of these players: Kylan Moore, Wendell Brown, Zach Webb, Griffin Isley, Dion Houston, Dylan Young, Harrison Sally, Cam Weber, or Melo Keels. 9 players. I'm hoping that 2 of these guys will be available with our first pick, and then that one of these guys will be left with our second lottery pick. A couple of these guys are apparently supposed to go, top 10, maybe some picks later in the draft, towards the middle of the lottery, but I want to get 2 of these players and hopefully 2 different positions. Now, one thing I have checked between last episode and now is that Kylan Moore, as somebody mentioned in the comments last episode, he can play power forward. And in fact, he might actually be a good fit at power forward because his speed with the ball is better than most centers, and it's on par with a lot of power forwards around his overall at 72, 71. He also has 79 speed without the ball. So he's a pretty quick player, pretty agile for a 7-foot-tall player. He is 265, so 20 pounds lighter than Zion Williamson, who was mainly a power forward. He's pretty agile, with about 80 agility. He's strong, good vertical, good stamina, and good hustle. So I feel like even if he won't be playing center, he could be the power forward that leads us to the future. But there's also guys like Zach Webb, who's got a Hall of Fame ceiling. There's guys like Harrison Sally, and I feel like those guys all could play that spot too. Now, we did pick up Dalton Connect via trade at the deadline this past season, so small forward I think is less of a concern, but Okoro could play the 2 spot off the bench for us if we don't move on from him. So a lot of things in the works. Not really sure who's going to stay, who's going to go from our bench unit, but I'm really thinking about both forward positions in this draft. That's going to be probably our major focus of the draft. Meanwhile, it looks like James Harden and Paul George both have retired alongside Jonas Valanciunas, Draymond Green, and a bunch more role players, including Steven Adams, who was our 3rd center on the depth chart this past year. So he's finally done. Malcolm Brogdon played for us for like a year and a half or so. He is also going to retire this year. So does Bogdan Bogdanovic, who played for us last season. So a couple of former Aztecs into the history books. And we're not done. Tom Thibodeau and Michael Malone both have retired after 20 plus years in the NBA as coaches. So new head coaches coming up for New York and for Denver. As expected, Paul George and Harden both make the Hall of Fame. And Harden has number 13 retired over in Houston, while Draymond Green has 23 retired over in San Francisco. For the first time in quite a while, I am actually feeling nervous about the draft lottery. In fact, odds have kind of shifted here. We now have the 4th best odds to get the first overall pick. I guess I was slightly wrong about that. I guess the mock drafts weren't up to date, but our later lottery pick has higher odds than initially thought at 2.2% with the 12th highest. So 4 and 12 before we go into the actual lottery, let's dive in and see if we can get lucky here and potentially get a top 3, top 4 selection. The first 3 picks don't move. Now for pick 12, the Aztecs will be staying at 12. So we're going to have number 12 at the latest. We'll see if anything else shifts. No movement so far. We're at pick 8, and the Magic will keep pick 8. So far, we're actually in line to be a top 4 selection. Here is the first lottery pick for the Jazz, and they will stay there at 7. No movement so far. That's good for us. 6th pick. The Hornets stay at 6. So we're going to have a top 5 pick. The Kings will reach the top 4. Brooklyn down to 5. And now the Aztecs with the 4th highest odds. We're going to have a top 3 pick, everybody. The Jazz go from 1 to 4 with their highest lottery chance. At number 3, the pick will belong to the Sacramento Kings. We're going to have a top 2 selection in the draft. Oh my god, this is perfect. Number 2 belongs to the Rockets. We're going to have pick number 1. We're going to have pick number 1. Do you believe it? I thought we get screwed here like we always do. But we get lucky, and the Mexico City Aztecs have the number 1 pick in the 2027 NBA draft. Historic day for the Aztecs franchise. We have picks 1 and 12. This is going to make this first overall pick a lot more difficult, but now we have every option available to us. We got to make the right pick. I am actually in disbelief right now. I can't believe that we just got that lucky. I mean, first I was wrong about the lottery odds, and then we go from 4 to 1 like that. That is actually perfect. Briefly going through the combine. Top standing 15-foot jump shot goes to Kobe Ward, Francis Gibson, and Harrison Sally, who is going to go around pick 6, 7, or 8. Moving 15-foot jump shot, Horace Hansen, number 1. Standing college 3, Harrison Sally, followed by Kylan Moore. Surprising for him. Griffin Isley also up there too. Moving college 3, Melo Keels, who is on our draft board. Harrison Sally at 19 out of 25 as well. Griffin Isley down there at 17. Standing NBA 3, Maxwell Lou. And Wendell Brown is up there, 16 for 25. And then moving NBA 3, nobody on our board until Melo Keels at 15 for 25. So we're not going to be drafting like a fantastic shooter, but it's going to be a guy that's going to have badges and is going to be, you know, that guy for us hopefully as a starter. Well, now it is time, guys. The time has come for the NBA draft, and we have the first overall pick. I still can't believe it. I've only been recording for like less than 15 minutes, and I'm still kind of in shock. But we have the first overall pick, and we are going to be making it right now. I think this pick is really between 3 players. It's between Dion Houston, Wendell Brown, and Kylan Moore. Now, one thing that stands out between all 3, or I guess versus the top 2 guys against Kylan Moore, is that not only has 12 badges, but he has some pretty important personality ones too. He's got a work ethic and alpha dog, enforcer for more grit, more toughness, extremely confident. He's got a lot of personality badges here, and those top 3 really, I think are going to be difference makers. One, he'll earn badges faster than most players will. Now, all these guys do have work ethic, which is true, but he's the only guy of the entire draft that we have seen so far that has the Alpha Dog personality badge. This guy, if we take him, can take over games. That's what I think this guy can do. He can help us come back from deficits, help us win close ones. He's got box out beast, brick wall, challenger, hook specialist, paint patroller, physical finisher, pogo stick, post fade phenom, post powerhouse, post up poet, rebound chaser, and rise up. Not to mention, he has the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Hall of Fame ceiling and a pretty high floor as a Bob McAdoo/starter as well, which is one of the highest floors you can pretty much have amongst anybody available. So he's a player that could be franchise changing. Really good post scorer, can knock down mid-range jump shots, pretty solid three-point shooter starting out compared to the rest of the league at his position. Now, rebounding is a concern, which is why I think he's maybe better fit as a power forward, because if we keep Mark Williams, which I think I'm planning on going into next year at least, we could have a really tall front court, and the rebounding skills won't be that much of an issue at power forward. He's a fantastic athlete as well. Does lack some court awareness, but overall, he is a really, really solid player, and I think he's worth going first overall. Now, according to mock drafts, he was supposed to go at pick 2 or pick 4. So, not a first overall projection. Deion Houston, though, for the most part, until these last couple of days, was a first round projection. Now supposed to go at 1, 2, or 4. He is a 7'2" center, not a power forward whatsoever. He weighs 20 pounds less, though, than Kylan Moore does, and is not as good offensively across the board, is a better rebounder, similar post defender, worse athlete, better basketball IQ, so keep that in mind. He also has 8 badges for break starter, brick wall, dimer, paint prodigy, physical finisher, and post fade phenom, as well as post powerhouse and strong handle, and he does have the work ethic badge, and he values team success over anything else, which is a nice plus to have. And of course, he also has the Nate Thurmond All-NBA ceiling, so not actually Hall of Fame, not a Hall of Fame ceiling. Similar floor as to Kylan Moore, but a slightly lower ceiling. So keep that in mind. That is going to be, I think, a pretty key difference between these two players. Now, he was averaging more points per game than Moore was in college, but he also went to ASU, Moore went to Duke. And Deion Houston, frankly, right now has lower agility, lower speed, lower strength, lower vertical than Kylan Moore does. Obviously, a way better rebounder, as we already mentioned, better post defender, but not nearly as fast with the ball in his hands. That's like 17 points lower than Kylan Moore. So I think I'm leaning right now towards Kylan Moore over Houston just because he seems to be a better player, you know? Overall, personality-wise, badge-wise, athleticism-wise, out of these 3 players, Wendell Brown actually has the lowest ceiling at All-Star, but a similar floor as to Zaire Williams as a starter. Now, he might be the best player to play right now because of the overall, because of what he was doing back in college, because of the offensive skills, but I think that the future for him, his upside is a little bit lower than Kylan Moore. But these 15 badges, that is a really, really nice starting point. He's still going to be a really, really good player. He actually does not have the work ethic badge, so he won't be getting too many more badges if he does not play well enough. So that is a thing to keep in mind. Good shooting form, knack for making stops every now and then, good lower body strength, but no big weaknesses. The only big one for Kylan Moore was the IQ and court awareness, which I think is going to be naturally better as he progresses throughout his career. He's only 19 years old. A lot of college players aren't going to be, the best fit for an NBA offense immediately. But again, I think Kylan Moore can be the guy that can start at power forward alongside Mark Williams. We get two really tall front court defenders, and he can work on the rest of his skills at the first couple years. I think he's the guy to go after, and we'll think about going after somebody like maybe Dylan Young or Melo Keels or just somebody else like Griffin Isley perhaps as well for small forward. But I think right now, Kylan Moore is my guy. The Aztecs are officially on the clock, and with this pick, we are selecting Kylan Moore, the center / power forward from Duke. 7 foot tall, 265, a 7'9" wingspan, which is longer than Dion Houston. Welcome to Mexico City, Mr. Moore. He is the first overall pick in the 2027 NBA draft. I just could not pass up a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Hall of Fame ceiling. That's just too great of a ceiling to pass up with the first overall pick. And Dion Houston goes to Houston with the second overall pick. They now have Alperen Şengün, Frank Bauer, the first overall pick from last year, and now Dion Houston, the second overall pick. 3 centers, all of whom are going to be great. So, I just don't understand the logic here. Is there any logic being played here by 2K? I'm not really sure. That is a mind-boggling pick, but I guess he was too good to pass up. I don't know what their plan is for center, but somebody's going to lack some playing time next year for sure. I wonder if they bring Şengün back after even, bringing him back on a huge contract just a couple years ago. The Kings have the third overall pick, and with it, they take Kibu Miller, so the top 3 kind of goes as you would have to expect, but Wendell Brown is still on the board, and the Jazz have the 4th overall pick. With it, they select Andrew Lee over Wendell Brown. Interesting pick right there. That's kind of surprising to me, I think, but there were a couple of strong guards towards the top of this class. Brooklyn has pick 5. They will take Zach Webb, who was one of those players that had the Hall of Fame ceiling. He's from Villanova, and he goes at pick 5. Next up is Charlotte. They have number 6, and they take Adrian Derbanenko. Nobody taking Wendell Brown yet. Now, again, I'm not going to trade up in this draft. I'm comfortable at 12, but I'm surprised he's falling this far. I'm surprised Derbanenko went this early, but I guess they need a replacement for Mark Williams. The Jazz are back on the clock, and they will be the ones to take Brown, so they pass on him with their 4th or 5th overall pick, and they instead take him later on at 7. So we'll keep an eye on Utah going forward, because they've had a couple of really early picks. They had Deion York, they have, Miller, and now Brown. So a lot of young talent over there in Utah. And now the Magic, with their first lottery pick, they select Floyd Sampson from Arizona. He was not on our boards. I was not really a fan of him that much. Again, trying to avoid a backcourt pick here in this draft. And next up, the Celtics will be making a trade at number 9 with the Nuggets. They acquire Chris Middleton and Bradley Beal, both of them aging veterans. I guess Boston not really a fan of this class at this stage of the draft. And Denver will select Gerald Temple, one of the point guards in this class from Florida. So a couple players falling a little bit. We might have a pretty good selection here at 12. We got 2 more picks to go through. Starting with the Nets, they take Harrison Sally. I was kind of going to avoid taking him now at 12 just because we took Kylan Moore and planned to play him at the 4 spot most likely. But he goes here anyways. And now it is time for the Magic. Again, with pick 11. And they select Griffin Isley. I was hoping that he would fall to 12 because I was going to take a chance on him. But there's still a player, I think, that is still available that I was looking at. It's between 3 players right now. The last 3 on our draft board. Dylan Young, Cam Weber, and Melo Kiel. So if you take Weber, it will have been a kind of, early pick for him to go. He's supposed to go right after the lottery is all up, but Dylan Young is the first guy on the board. He's got that Marquise Johnson All-NBA ceiling. He gets to the rim okay, but is a really good finisher once he does get there. Apparently should have some good success in the years to come. Has a really good leaping ability, which is why he's a high-flying small forward at 6'6", 225. But like Kylan Moore, it's slow to grasp offense and will take some time to acclimate to the NBA play style. But again, A- inside scoring. Shooting does need some work. He's a solid outside defender. Pretty solid rebounder, 2C+, is a pretty good starting point for a small forward. Really just fantastic athletes. IQ again needs work, so if we take him, we're taking two guys that need to work on their basketball IQ and basketball awareness, but has that really solid all-NBA ceiling. He's got 4 badges: bailout, physical finisher, posterizer, and set shot specialist. And he does have the work ethic and enforcer badges, just like Kylan Moore does. So that's a pretty good start here with this pick. Cam Weber is supposed to go later on. He has no gameplay badges and only the keep it real personality badge. So I'm already kind of thinking about not taking him. I was saying how I would have taken Isley, but I think Weber is less of a player that I'm willing to take a chance on. So I think I'm out on him here. Melo Keels is the other guy. Now he is taller. I think he weighs a bit more. Yeah, 10 pounds heavier, 1 inch taller, and 1 year younger, 19 years old, can play small forward. Cliff Hagan, All-NBA ceiling, a floor of Robert Horry, good playmaker, good shooting form, should develop into an all-star someday, but does lack some offensive anticipation, so keep that in the back of your head. He is a good mid-range shooter, needs to work on inside scoring and slashing. 3-point scoring needs some work, just like it does for Dylan Young, but he does have some playmaking skills. Pretty solid outside defender. Rebounding is a bit worse compared to Young. He's a slightly worse athlete, but still a great athlete. IQ is better, and their potentials are really, really similar. He's got off-ball pest, pick dodger, set shot specialist, shifty shooter, slippery off-ball, and he also has a work ethic and enforcer. So it's really between these two players here, and I don't really know who to take because their ceilings are the same, their floors are the same. Now, one thing I want to show is the free throws. Dylan Young has 74 without the arrows dropping it down a little bit. Melo Keels has a way better free throw. Keels also has, I mean, they both have pretty low shot IQ, but his is better than Dylan Young's is. He has about 74 pass accuracy, where Dylan Young has way lower pass accuracy. 80 ball handling for Dylan Young. Keels at 75, so not much of a difference there. Keels has 77 speed with the ball and about 79, 80 hands with pretty poor stealing, but 90 speed overall. Pretty solid agility, but kind of low strength, as Dylan Young has really fast speed with the ball in his hands, so that's why he's a pretty good slashing threat. Better hands than Keels, better stealing, and way better speed. I think speed's going to be a pretty big difference maker here, because once he gets going downhill, he's going to blow by a lot of his on-ball defenders. He's got a great vertical, worse strength than Keels, so keep that in mind. The 25 intangibles for Young and 26 for Keels, so really no difference there. Having somebody as quick as Dylan Young, who will likely improve in terms of shooting, having this fast of a guy, off-ball coming off screens, and then on-ball slashing towards the rim and blowing by defenders in probably isolation, I think that's going to be a difference maker, plus the rebounding is a bit higher for him. I think I'm willing to take the shot to the basketball IQ on both of our first-round picks and get Dylan Young, who is 6'6", 225, and can battle with Dalton Connect for that starting small forward job. And then we have some variety on where Kylan Moore can play, whether we have, Mark Williams in the game or not. Moore can play the 4 or the 5, and we can still sign a power forward as well. So I think Dylan Young is going to be our pick here over Melo Keels, and he's going to be the newest addition alongside Kylan Moore. So Dylan Young, welcome to Mexico City. whilst in the rest of the lottery, as there's 3 more picks left, Portland is going to trade the 13th overall pick to the Knicks for OG Anunoby straight up, plus that second-round pick next year from Portland. But a big trade for both teams. Knicks, after losing Tom Thibodeau, looking towards the future, now trading into the lottery to take Stefan Kramer out of Germany. The 2 picks left in the lottery. The Hawks have the 14th pick, and they will they will trade this pick instead to the 76ers for Austin Reeves and Royce O'Neal. They must really like Austin Reeves. And the Sixers trade up to select Cam Webber. A little bit early, but not that early. And now the Warriors. Pick 15, they take Melo Kiel. So I have to keep an eye on him because I think it's going to be a big question as to whether or not this was the right pick between him and Dylan Young. But I like who we got. We have a couple of really different skill sets now on this offense. We do actually have a second-round pick now. I have not really taken a look at anybody down here, but Andre Walsh is still available. 7'1". Doesn't really have any promising badges or anything, but maybe could be a guy that we look to build as kind of like a project player. I mean, that is what second-round picks are going to end up being for us. We end up not having to probably sign a center in the offseason. We don't have anybody else scouted very well, and nobody else is going to be as good as he is out of the gates. So I'm just going to take Andre Walsh straight up. Interior threats, has things to work on, but, fairly promising player. He does have a high ceiling versus a low floor, so this is kind of the guy that you want to take in the second round, a guy that you're, hoping on can reach that potential. So we're going to take Andre Walsh. I think we did about as well as you could have ever hoped for in this draft. We got lucky. Like, I thought it was going to be a monumental screw over. We were going to have like the 7th or 8th pick, which I was not going to be happy with. But we instead get the first overall pick, and we take Kylan Orr with it. He is a 78 overall with 12 badges, only 19 years old. And he's already going to be a really solid post player. So expect him to get plenty of touches down low. He's actually a better jump shooter than we initially thought. B- mid-range shooting, C+ 3-point shooting, and he's a better rebounder too. Great stuff right there already. Basketball IQ, a full letter grade higher than we initially thought. That is fantastic. Now, B- potential, don't get too carried away. We saw that ceiling. I'm going to hope that he can reach that. He has all 12 badges that we thought he had, and he does indeed have work ethic, alpha dog, and enforcer. This was the right pick, I think. We won't really know for sure until a couple years down the line, but I think as of right now, this was the right pick to make. Deion Houston ends up being slightly better than advertised, especially in terms of post defense and rebounding skills. Basketball IQ very high, worse athlete than Kylan Moore is, but he does have those badges. He does have work ethic. So this was not a bad, well, I guess for the Rockets, could be a bad pick considering, the fact that they already have 2 other really promising young centers. But Cuba Miller, a really solid pick by the Kings. I believe they lost De'Aaron Fox, I think, to the Hawks, if I recall correctly. And so this is kind of that replacement for them. 3-level scoring playmaker with just, really good offense right out of the gate. He's 6'5", and he's going to be a really solid player immediately with A+ paper, or A+ potential on paper. Great athlete. This was a really good pick. Lucky to get this guy at 3 for sure, because in most drafts, I think he probably goes number 1, but this was just a draft that was pretty strong in the top, 8 to 9 players. So that's a really solid pick. Then Andrew Lee, was not really thinking about him too much because he's a guard, but I guess this was a pick that Utah made at the right spots. He's going to be a pretty good shooter, probably good passer as well. He's got work ethic badge as well. And slightly worse version, I think, of Cuba Miller, but can play both guard positions. definitely a really solid pick. And Zach Webb, a rim-attacking power forward. You know, in a different universe, we could have drafted him as well with that second pick if things go differently with who we got at number 1. But he is definitely a really solid pick. Good athlete, solid across the board. No big question marks for him. Solid badge numbers here with work ethic as well. Now, the most surprising pick, I think, of the entire lottery was Dermanenko going here to Charlotte. Aerial wizard, pogo stick, rise up, does not have work ethic, and is actually pretty solid offensively. Can actually, you know, stretch the floor pretty well with his three-point shooting. So, not a bad pick by any means by Charlotte, but just kind of a surprising one given that he's 23 years old, and there were players like Wendell Brown available, or Harrison Sally still. Brown ends up with those 15 badges. He's going to be an immediate game-changing player for Utah. Will maybe not start for them out of the gate, but will definitely be like in the running for Sixth Man of the Year if he gets that role off the bench. And he looks to be as good as advertised. The Nets got Harrison Sally at number 10, and he's going to be a pretty solid finisher, a good low post defender, does not have work ethic, so they lose out on, you know, the highest upside in terms of gaining badges year after year, but really good post defender, great rebounder, offense is in a really good starting place, fantastic athlete. It was hard to go wrong drafting him. And then before we took Dylan Young, you've got Griffin Isley, 73 overall, 6'9" forward, and he's a really good two-way player, especially defensively, can guard the perimeter and the post. Another great athlete. See potential on paper because I think his floor is lower than the other Hall of Fame ceiling players, but he's going to be a really good defender, a lot of those defensive badges starting out. And we took Dylan Young at number 12. He's got bailout, physical finisher, posterizer, and set shot specialist. Work ethic badge, enforcer. Exactly what we thought he would be. And he's actually a better shooter than we thought. B- mid-range, C+ three-point shooting, good playmaker, good outside defender, C+ rebounder. Like perfect athletes. This was the right pick for us here. I am excited for both of these first-round picks. This was perhaps our best draft yet. No complaints from me at all. Cam Weber ends up being a 70 overall player, no badges. I'm going to avoid just thinking about him. Melo Keels was the last pick in the lottery, a Swiss Army knife that is already an all-around player. Really good shooter, better than we thought. Good low post and outside defender. Good athlete, solid rebounder for a small forward in his first year with higher IQ than Dylan Young. You could have gone either way, but I think the speed difference for Dylan Young, the athletic raw skill, I think is going to set him apart from Melo Keels initially. In round 2, we ended up selecting Andre Walsh, who is a 70 overall, 7'1" center. He might be a G League guy with no badges in either category, but solid inside scorer, three-pointer. He's going to take a while to work on, but he's actually better than we thought, which seems to be the case for a lot of these players. Post defense, C+, rebounding, not too bad. He likely won't get playing time behind Mark Williams, Moore, and Wiseman, but make him either our third, fourth option or make him a G League player, and he will probably progress pretty solidly to like a mid-70s player, hopefully. Overall, this might be one of my best drafts, at least initially, that I've ever had. Not as good as the Mac Boy draft because that was a completely generational talent, but Kylan Moore could still be that guy. I think he's about as good as Mac Boyd was out of the gates. So was Dylan Young, I think. So maybe this was better. We'll just have to see how things play out. He will obviously sign all 3 players. And in team player options, we will bring back Connect. So we have him for 1 more year. We will obviously bring back John Cobb. No question about that. So there's going to be a battle at small forward between Connect and Dylan Young. But if you want to really prioritize Dylan Young, who is, 4 years younger, I think he's 6 years younger actually right now, because he's 20 years old, and he's 26. So I think it might make sense to start Dylan Young and Kyler Moore and just have a completely, fully young lineup out there with 4 of our most recent first rounders. That sounds like a lot of fun to me. We will obviously take those options, and now it's time to get a look at the qualifying offers. We will not extend one to Anderson. He just has not been good for us this year, or really any year so far. Career stats, he has shot 40% from the field, really took a step back last year. Taking a look here, you've got Nikola Jokic, unrestricted. Jalen Green, unrestricted. Same goes for Tyler Herro, Benedict Mathurin, Jalen Duren, Michael Porter Jr., Walker Kessler. Okoro actually is also a free agent too. I forgot that he was on the last year of his deal, so we could bring him back if we want to. But we do have Max Christie, who is, I think, going to be that number 2 guy off the bench behind John Cobb at shooting guard. And we'll see what happens at small forward. I guess, no, we won't. We have Connect and Dylan Young. What am I saying here? And then power forward, I think, is going to be a spot for us to go after for that either starter over Moore or the backup behind him at the 4 spot. You've got Jarris Walker, who knows if they're going to match his offer, but there is Josh Hart, but he's 6'4", is a stats offer for sure, but I think that's just a little bit too undersized for my liking at power forward. There is DeAndre Hunter, not a bad option for a stretch 4. Isaiah Stewart, Olivier Maxence Prosper, could bring back Grant Williams, but he shot like 32 per, like less than 40%. I think I'll pass on him. So there are options here. There is Jabari Walker, solid player, 24 years old, coming off, a relatively poor shooting year, while looks like DeAndre Hunter shot pretty well from the field, 45%, 37%, really good free throw shooter. I think I like him the most already of these options. Prosper was not a good shooter, and he also is restricted, and Hunter fits our system, 3 out of 5 stars. That's, probably the best you can ask for, except for Jarris Walker. And he's currently got offers, by the way, from the Kings and Suns, but we can definitely beat those offers out. I doubt he takes those. And he shot how well last year? 48% and 35 from behind the arc. He is 6'7", slightly undersized. Hunter, I think, is a better option. Costs us about half as much money, and we can worry about any cap holds once we offer him. So I think I'll offer him first and go from there. I'm going to renounce the rights to Josh Green, Najee Marshall, Wade Anderson, Williams, Okoro, McLaughlin, and Anderson, just pretty much all of them. And we don't yet get the accepted offer from Hunter. In fact, he takes a different offer and will be heading elsewhere, it looks like. So he will head to Dallas instead. If we can get Jarris Walker, I don't see why not offering him a deal. He's still looking at these other offers that are not very good. I think we have the cap room as well to bring him in. But here's the problem. I bet you that if we offer a deal around that he's getting current offers from, like around 13 mil for 1 year, he probably will just deny us straight up, which I don't want to happen. If we make it a 2-year deal, he actually likes it a bit better. What if we offer 22 mil? That's not bad for one of your top guys, most likely coming off the bench. Could be our 6th man at 23 years old. And we'll offer that. He declines immediately. Why? Why do you do that? We offer a 2-year deal worth, say, around 25 and 26. He'll consider it. And how much cap room do we have if he takes that deal? That's my biggest question right now. He's willing to agree to it, and I think we would have still about $20 million left to spend. Not bad. You get your power forward that can be a starter or a bench player, can give you some more offense and some defense, and that's athletic skill. And we move on from Okoro and a bunch of other talent. Day 3 of moratorium, and Jarace Walker is officially on the team. We still have $17 million in cap room left to spend. I think that was still the right move to make. Good move, and we are improving vastly without even seeing player progression. Now, looking for some depth at the 3 spot, I think Bryce McGowens, I'm not sure how to say it, but solid shooter in not a whole lot of playing time this past year, but would be solid depth. He probably gets the offer sheet matched, but why not at least take a chance when it costs us too much money? We'll see if they end up matching that, and we still got to add probably one more guard, one more power forward for depth. The other Hunter did not take the other offer, man. He's not in Dallas. He just fooled us. He said, no, I'm taking Dallas offer, and then he just miffed them as well. You know what? Let's go after Kenyon Martin Jr., a bit undersized for power forward, or Yabusele, who's also, well, he's not undersized. He's 6'8", but I was trying to sign him a couple of years ago. He has not really been the best shooter, but I think probably barely played. Maybe just appeared in 1 game last year. I want to take a chance on Yabusele, who really impressed in the Olympics. And we'll bring him in as that depth power forward, probably as the 3 string, the 3rd string. Now we can look at a bigger 2 guard to be a backup behind Christie if things don't pan out with him. Bryce McGowens will accept that 2-year, $10 million offer. Welcome to Mexico City. And both Yabusele and Herter will sign as well on their 1-year offers. I think our roster might be complete. We've got 1 more roster spot available. Why not use our cap room to do so? We got $5 million left to spend. Craig Porter, good shooter, and passes better. Let's try and sign him to be that 3rd point guard in case Rozier takes a step back. And he is going to sign a 2-year, $8 million deal. Now we got 15 players on the roster, and we are done just like that. Throughout the rest of the league, these were the signings. Wembanyama returns to the Spurs on a big rookie extension. Nikola Jokic back to Denver on a 5-year deal. Brandon Miller, rookie extension. Jalen Green, rookie extension. Scoot Henderson, 5-year rookie extension. Tyler Herro leaves Miami for Milwaukee. Big change of scenery for him. Benedict Mathurin, 5-year deal to return to the Pacers. Koulibaly, 4-year deal to go back to the Wizards. We're going to be dumping a lot of money to these rookies based on these contracts here in a couple seasons. Dylan Duren heads to be the backup, I guess, behind Wemby in San Antonio. We signed Jarace Walker. MPJ heads to Chicago. Barrett back in Toronto on a 4-year deal for the Canadian. Jimmy Butler heads to the Dallas Mavericks on a 1-year contract. And there were a couple other signings. Hunter eventually signs with Portland. Josh Hart to Miami. That makes way too much sense. So, those were your top signings. There's still plenty of players left available, but they will probably find teams before Year 4 actually begins. And now, as always, another key moment in every offseason. Player progression. John Cobb goes up 6 overall points once again to 83. And he gets 4 badges. Now a 2-way scoring phenom. So now he's going to be way better on defense, I hope. We'll check those badges here soon. But he's at 83 overall. Better mid-range and 3-point shooting, which will definitely help us out. Defense goes up by a pretty good amount for both inside and outside defense. Playmaking goes up. Everything goes up except for inside scoring. IQ now at an A. And now he is the highest overall player on the team. Coming off a 21 points per game season. And things are looking up for the Aztecs, folks. I can't wait. He's still, I guess, a prospect, but soon that role right there is going to change to core player, maybe superstar in a couple years. He's got a bailout badge, which will make him better at completing a pass from midair, so less of those bobbled passes. He's now got dead eyes, so less impact on defenders closing in. Float game, self-explanatory, and now layup mix master. We got to get this guy attacking the rim because I think he's still the best at that versus shooting, but that all should be going up. And now he does gain work ethic. He does gain that after his first 2 years, which means these next couple of years, he should be better at gaining badges at a higher rate. This is all good news for the 23-year-old John Cobb. What's a couple of years for him? Jarris Walker goes up by 1. Mark Williams improves in inside scoring, playmaking, and IQ. Connect goes up a little bit in scoring, playmaking, and IQ, but David Dennis goes up 5 overall points. Not too far behind Cobb. He's now got 13 badges, so he gains 6. He had 7, he gains 6, and goes up in every feasible category. I think he is going to be a lot more reliable this year. He was a big, spotty shooter last year, and I think he'll be a lot better. He's got Silver Dimer, Handles for Days, Unpluckable, and now Bronze Aerial Wizard, Deadeye, Float Game, High Flying Denier, Interceptor for defense, Off-Ball Pest for defense, On-Ball Menace for defense, Shifty Shooter, Slippery Off-Ball, and Versatile Visionary with no work ethic badge, but he is still getting those at a pretty high clip. And the starting 5, I think, is coming slowly into shape. Max Christie actually improves pretty good amount as well, with inside defense, outside defense, playmaking, rebounding, IQ. Hopefully, this will make him a better shooter with that IQ going up. Kylan Moore is a 78 overall. He, I guess, does gain some IQ somehow here in the offseason. Rozier does not go down as much as I initially thought, so I'm actually fine keeping him as the backup point guard, but if he does not shoot very well in showcase games, I will be making a switch to our other point guard, Craig Porter, who also had some improvements of his own in three-point shooting, playmaking, and IQ. Meanwhile, James Wiseman, about where he was last year. He goes up by 1 overall point. But nobody for us really goes down, besides Rozier a little bit, but I'm not really concerned about those categories going down too much. So, I always feel confident going into new seasons, but I think this year especially, I'm hoping that we can actually reach that play-in tournament level. That's my goal this year. That's my true end-of-year goal. Would you look at that? The All-Star break is headed to Mexico City this year. Okay, we're going to host. That's pretty cool. We might have a player in the All-Star game this year. We'll have to see how things shake out, but that is probably perfect timing. That will take us into year 4 as Kevin Durant plans to retire. He will have his farewell tour, of course. And we open the year at home against Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. This could be a rivalry brewing the rest of the series. Stephon Castle has progressed pretty well. Douglas Farrell still on the Spurs. He was taken by them in the first draft of the series. They got a pretty good roster. They got Josh Green as well, the former Aztec, and we're going to face them. I'm not going to set up my game plan, my starting 5 or anything just yet. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, the coach has his own thoughts. For some reason, he has Rozier starting over David Dennis. I disagree. He will be starting over Rozier. But who do you think should start for this team? Why is Dylan Young not getting playing time here? I don't know. I just don't get that. In our roster, who do you think should be the starting 5? We got Dennis, Rozier, Porter at point guard. Dennis will be starting, of course. So will Cobb at shooting guard. But at small forward, should Connect start? Should Dylan Young start? At power forward, should it be Jarris Walker or Kylan Moore, perhaps? Or should Moore start at center over Mark Williams and have him come off the bench and Wiseman find a different role elsewhere? Who do you think should be our starting 5? Who should be our bench units? What do you think is in store for this team this season? We will, of course, have one episode between now and the opener against the Spurs, because I want to go through batch training, individual training. I want to go through a scrimmage between hopefully our top 10 players. I'm not sure if they're going to actually play Kylan Moore or Dylan Young in the scrimmage, but hopefully that does happen, because I want to see all of our young talent out there on the court in that 5-on-5 match. And we will also go through some testing on some playbook plays, maybe just the whole playbook in general, and see if things look better, because we can actually do a CPU versus CPU test in practice with the playbook. So we can check things out there outside of a scrimmage, and we can also solidify our game plan, our rotation as well. So give me all your feedback down below. What do you want to see? Who should be our starting 5? And if you have any ideas for a playbook change, leave your thoughts down below, and leave your thoughts on how you think we did this offseason. Was this the best one yet? Do we have the final pieces of our core right now? We're still apparently rebuilding according to Team Intel, but maybe we're gonna be a surprising team. Who really knows? Give me your thoughts down below. Like the video, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time in the pre-season video before we get into year 4. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.